So yesterday I gave you guys one task. Did anyone do? Bala, did you do it?
Yes. What I'll paste that in the message.
Okay. Okay.
But the problem is when I run the second method,
Uh-huh.
it doesn't accept. It shows method error.
Sorry, what issue?
The first method is getting executed, but the second method is not getting executed actually.
It is not getting executed. Is it getting compiled? Is it getting saved?
It is getting saved, yeah. But when I try to call that method,
Mm-hmm.
it's, it's
So
showing a method does not exist or incorrect signature.
public static void odd number. Then you must have you have to pass two parameters. If you pass two parameters, it will accept.
Okay.
Are you passing two integers? You have to pass two integers. One is the starting number, one is the end number.
Yeah, in the method I have passed ping that
So in the
coding
method
and the
call
message.
also you have to pass.
Okay. 1 minute.
See, let me show
Yeah,
you.
I'm passing actually 7 and 13. When I'm calling the
Ah,
method, I'm passing 7 and 13. Still it
okay.
shows.
Okay, let me create one quick class here. So let me close out of all this. So we'll create a new class. Let's say even numbers. Okay. So I created one class and then I put all the code here. So I just remove this class part. So now it becomes even number class. Okay. Public static void even number. So this is going to accept one string, one integer limit, public static integer. Let me take method by method. Public static integer. This is one method. Okay. This will be small. Okay, that is fine. Then we'll take another method. Debug for I equals to. It's throwing me a syntax error.
Okay.
One second. Let me just check it. This. Okay, one second. I think I missed out something from here.
Okay.
Okay. So don't give this block. Okay. Give it
Okay.
only after the method. So the method starts here, method ends here. After that you have one more this bracket, right? Public static, and after that you have one more bracket. Remove that bracket. Okay.
Okay.
These two, and this bracket you have to remove. Okay. And you have to also remove this public part and the static part. Now what is the issue? Limit is a keyword. Use something
Okay.
else. So
Yeah,
let's
that is
say
what I was trying. Limit 1 actually.
you
Okay.
can, limit one you can say. Limit one you can say. That is fine. Limit one. Okay. So this method came fine. Now we'll try for the second method. Okay, so this is another method, static void. It accepts two integers. One is starting number, one is ending number. Public static. So see, this public static, if you declare like this has to be global.
Okay.
Okay, this has to be global at the top, not inside a method. Inside a method, don't give public static. Okay.
Okay, it is already understood that it is public static.
So inside the method, all the variables that are there, they are private,
Okay, okay.
and they are all only limited to this particular
The
scope.
method.
You cannot use it outside this method. So you cannot make it as
Oh,
public
oh,
and also static.
static, okay.
Okay. So for the local, see, it's showing the error public is not allowed on local. So local variables cannot be public.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And another thing is about this public is also not allowed. Can't use public. Yes, all these are local variables only. So a equals to, you're taking a
Yeah,
starting number, b is taking as in ending number, that is fine. For I equals to a,
I is
I,
not.
sorry,
Yeah. No, no, actually, integer I has to be
yeah, so you have to define here
declared.
also, define integer. I is equal to a, I less than equals to b, okay, I plus 3, I plus 2. You have to add two
Okay.
odd numbers, you have to
Okay.
show, right? Odd numbers, still
Yeah.
2. Odd numbers also will be 2 only.
Okay. Okay.
See, even numbers, if you have to define 2, 4, 6, 8. What is the difference? 2. Difference is 2. Okay, you are adding two numbers. Now, here if you want to say 1, 3, 5, 7, still the difference is 2
Five.
only, right?
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay. So here you have to I plus 2. Okay. If you add 3, then I plus 3 will become 4. 1
Four,
plus 3 will
seven.
become
Then
4, so it will become even. So it will show 1 even, 1
no.
odd. Then it will come 7,
Okay.
right?
Got it.
It will become, your
Yeah.
sequence
Yeah.
will show something like this. Okay. Okay, so we have some more errors. System.debug of I for integer. See, after for loop, you don't give this semicolon.
Okay.
Okay, don't give this semicolon. So here you don't give this static because these are local variables. Local variables should not accept these things. Okay, so you're copying the value. All the
Okay.
other things are fine. All the other things are correct. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so let us save it. So it is still did not save it. What is the problem? Now it saved it. Okay, so we have two methods. Both of them are public and static. This will not return anything. This will not return anything. Plus two, limit one. Integer I equals to 2. I less than limit 1. Okay, so let us try to call your methods and let's see what happens. So if I use even numbers dot, then I call even, oops, dot even number, and it has to accept one integer, so I have to pass one integer. Let's say I give the starting number as 5. Okay, so there is a small bug in your code. Actually, it's not a issue, it's actually a functionality issue. That's fine, we'll see. So I'll explain you about that also. What is the bug? So let's say if I call your method once again and if I give it 4, okay, and if I execute the highlighted thing, so let us see what we get. So we come to debug only. So here it is displaying 2 and 4. Okay, limit 1. Oh, starting number is always 2, right? I equals 2. Okay. Starting number is 2. So let us say if I give the limit as 10. And now if I execute this, So it is displaying me correct. So this is fine. Okay. Now let us check out the second method. So here I have to give two numbers. One is the starting number, one is the ending number. So this I will call it as odd numbers. Okay, so starting number if I give as 10 and the ending number if I give as let's say 20. Okay, so it will add 2 and 2, so that will become a problem. So we give 11 and we give 23. Okay. Okay. Okay, so now it is displaying fine. Okay, but there are
Okay.
some input issues that you have to handle. Okay, let us say if somebody gives 5 in your first, if in your first
Okay.
method also somebody gives an any odd number, so if the starting number is odd, then it will start displaying the odd series. It will give 5, then it will give 7, it will give 9, like that. Okay, so that input you have to handle. Either you have to display a message saying that please enter something which is uh, odd number, like even number starting, or you have to subtract it with 1, or you have to add it with 1 to actually
Okay.
show.
It's need, if loop for this, like limit one reminder should be 0.
Yes, correct. So that check you have to do.
Like that did not work. So what I did is I just initialized, declared I is equal to 2 was initialized. Then, so only if the limit is 5, it will show till 4.
Yeah, that will work fine. So in this method, I think that will work fine. If somebody gives 5 also, oh, we are not giving starting number, we are giving the end number, right? Okay,
Yeah.
my bad. So this will work fine. So the first method you don't have to do any check. So if you write even number, odd number, still it will display till the limit. So this is correct. But in the
Oh,
second, it might create a problem because in the second we are giving starting number also, right? So if somebody
yeah.
gives, let's say, 10 here, okay, which is an even number, so it will start from 10.
Okay.
Okay, so let's try to save this and let us check it out. 1 second. So let's execute this whole thing. Okay, so 2 4 10, this is coming as fine. Okay, and the
Yeah.
second one is also coming as 10. Oh, starting as 10, so this is also fine. Now let us say if I give starting as see, it has to supposed to display the odd numbers, right? It's still displaying the even numbers.
Mm, okay.
Okay, so I gave here 10 and it is showing me the even numbers. So that you have to
Okay.
handle. If somebody gives an odd
Mhm.
number, even number as an input, that you have to handle. So you have to do an if check on this integer or maybe on the starting number. So you have to do one if check. Okay, so what you can do is you can put one if, and if integer a divided by 2, if it becomes double equals to 0, that means there is no remainder, right? Or no, if this
Equals.
percentage 5, yeah, I think percentage 2. 1 second. Mm, 10 percentage 2. To remainder, what is used to get the remainder?
I
Percentage.
think if it is divisible by 2, it should be an even number, right?
Then how do you check whether it's even or odd?
Not equal to 0.
Slash 2.
This will give us a reminder, right?
This is supposed to give us the remainder. 1 second. Hmm, Apex remainder operator. So actually it is supposed to be percentage. That is how Java used to work. But I think in Apex maybe this is reserved for some other purpose. Not sure. Let's check it out.
Okay.
This is not working. Is not a valid operator. So is called a modulus. So you have another function called modular. So
Um,
this you might have to use math.module x comma y.
yeah, because I was running that if for
Uh-huh.
using the same percentage symbol I was using for even number, it did not even work.
Oh, okay. So if math.module x is, let's say, a, y is 2, and if this double equals to 0, then if its remainder is 0, that means somebody is adding a even number. So in case of that, all we have to do is uh, a plus equals to 1. So we just have to add 1 to that, then it will become an odd number. So let us see if it works or not. Okay. So here I'm supposed to check the remainder. So I'm checking if the remainder is double equals to 0. That means if the remainder is 0, that means it's an even number. Okay. So if somebody gives an even
Okay.
number, then I'm just adding one number next to that. Okay. So I'm making
Okay.
it as an odd. So that is what I'm doing. Let's see how it behaves. So if I give an even number as an input, so let us execute this and let's see what comes as an output. So now it is displaying as 11, 13, 15. So even if somebody gives an even number or odd number, now both the situations will work. So positive check we have done. So let's give one, sorry, negative testing also. So if we give 11 itself as input, so we have given the correct input. Now it should behave correctly. It should not add one more to it. So let us execute this. Okay. So now also it's displaying odd numbers. So it is behaving correctly in both the situations. Okay. So even if you input as if you the starting number you give as even number, it will still work same. If you give as a starting number as odd number also, it will still give you the series of odd numbers only.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, let me ping you this. Can okay. So this you can try and let me know what happens. Okay, so let's get into our for loop. Okay, so is Harsh? I don't think Harsh is here. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so for loop, there are three types of for loop. Okay, so for loop. So one example of for loop we have already seen, that is a traditional for loop. So there are three types of for loops. One is a conventional for loop. Okay, another is for each loop, and then we have for each SOQL loop. Okay, so three types of for loops are there. So in most wide cases we will be using our for loop with a list, with a query of the database records. Okay, so for that there is specially designed for loop which is for each SOQL loop. This we will see later. So first we will check out what is the conventional for loop. Okay, so the conventional for loop we have already seen. This is the conventional for loop that you guys I think understood. So here you give the initialization, then you give the condition, then you give the change. Okay, so the loop will run in this fashion. First it will initialize. Okay, once it has initialization is done, then it will check the condition. It will jump to the this part. It will check the condition whether this is true or not. If this becomes true, it will come inside the loop. Here it will run whatever execution it has to do, it will do it. If it reaches the end of the scope, after this it will jump back to the increment or decrement, whatever you're doing. Now after increment and decrement, then it will go back to your condition. It will check whether still after incrementing is the condition still satisfied. If it is still true, then it will again come inside. So it will keep on iterating like that until the condition becomes false. Okay, so that is a conventional for loop. Now there is another type of for loop which is for each loop. So what's a for each loop? So here you can define the starting limit and here you can define the ending limit. It does not depend on any of the limit, any of the data. It depends on the limit that you give. But for each loop will come in picture when you have a list. Okay, so let's check out a brief introduction about what list is. So what is a list? So in the list, let's say we have defined a variable. So we give a variable integer I equals to 10. Okay. So now this variable I will save only one value, which is 10. If you want to save multiple values in the same integer, then you have to use a list. Okay. So here one box will be created for I, and the value of that will be 10. Okay, now what if you want to add some, like one placeholder was supposed to hold like more boxes and more fields of the same data type. In that case you have to create a list. So if you create a list, okay, so if you create a list, how do you create a list? To create a list you call something like list, then you can give integer and you give, let's say, I list, okay, equals to new list integer. So this is how you create a list. Now the list doesn't have any value, but just one list is created. There are no boxes as of now. So if you want to add some value to the list, then what you do is you give ilist dot add. You give a method called ilist dot add, and then you add some values. If you want to add 10, then you add value 10. Okay, so like this, one by one you can add values to the list. So if you add some more values, so you can add, let's say 10, then you can add 20, add 30, and add 40, add 50. So the only thing that you have to remember here is the data type that you give for the list. The same data type you have to give in the end also, and the same data type value you can put. So if you declare a list of integer types, you cannot put string values inside. Okay, and you cannot put decimal values also. That will give you an error. Okay, so if you declare a list of integer type, then you have to use integers itself. Okay, so let us see a quick example of this. So if I have a let me erase these things. So if I have developer console, so in this, if I want to create a list, so I'll say, I'll just copy this. So we don't have much time today. Okay, so here I've created one list, and in this list I've added some 5 values. Now if I want to debug, or if I want to display those values, so I'll do system.debug and I add my I list. So my values, now my values will be displayed. So if I execute everything, so now all the values will be displayed. So this is a list that I have created. Okay, so similar to this, you can also create a list of account. You can create list of all the data types that are permissible. That means you can create list for user defined data type also, primitive data type also, S objects also. Okay, here you can put account also. So if you put account, then the list will be created for accounts. So now you can add all the accounts. Okay, so that is also possible. So let us see how in the for each loop will be iterating through the list, how to use a for each loop. Okay, so let us say here, though, you can display all the values. Okay, you can display all the values just by adding a debug log. Now what if you want to grab all the values and you want to do some calculation with each of the value? In that case, how you will do? You have to use a for each loop. So for each loop is basically used for a list. Okay, so for each loop, this is designed for to work with loop. Okay, designed to work with list. So if you have a list, then you have to use a for each loop. Okay, so let us say if I had a list like this, and if I had to do some calculation based on each of the values of the list, then how will I do? I will use a traditional for loop. If I use a traditional for loop, then how will I do it? So I have to use a traditional for loop. So I'll say something like integer I equals to let's say 0. Then I will say I is less than the length of the list. So I say I list dot length. So if it's less than, so and then I will do I plus plus. So in this case it will start from 0 and it will go through the all the values of the list as long as it is less than the length. So till the starting index is 0, so all the starting index of the list is always 0. So this will be 0th box, this will be first, this will second, third, fourth, like that. Okay, so here we have added 5 values to the list, so 5 boxes will be created. Okay, so 1 2 3 4 5. So the starting index will be 0, this will be 0, this will be 1, this will be 2, this will be 3, this will be 4. Okay, like this. So what I'm doing here is I'm going over the entire list. So I'm starting with 0, that means the first index, the first box, then I'm going till the length. Okay, the length of the list is 5, so I'm going till the 5th box and then I'm iterating it each time. Now if I display the values, let us say system.debug, and inside this I have to use, or if I have to display any of the values, so then I will say I list of I. So now if I execute this, spelling mistake, void length, I think length is not there. Let me see, I think it is size.
Sava,
Yes,
in line number 11, I is mentioned within brackets, right? Which means that is the index value.
yes, that is the index value. These things we'll see in detail when we study list. Okay, as of now, just for demonstration why we are actually using the for each loop, that I just wanted to show. So whatever value you put inside, that index will be shown. So as of now I am changing the value of I from 0 to the entire length of the list. So I'm changing it from 0 1 2 3, all those will be coming inside this box.
Okay.
Okay, so if you want to display the, like if you want to denote each boxes separately, that also you can do. You can say something like I list of 0, this will give you the first box, then you will use I list of 1, this will give you the second box, similarly so on and so forth. Okay, so this value I'm not putting hard coding 0 1 2 3 like this, so I am using it as a variable. So this variable initial value will be what, 0, so it will show the 0th box, so then it will change to 1, then 2, then 3, like that. So each of the box will be shown. Okay, so if I want to use each of the indexes one by one, then I have to write so much to just display each values or just to use each values. Okay, so if I want to execute this, so now it will show me each of the values one by one, like 10 20 30 40, like that it will show. Okay, but I had to write so much. So in Apex, or in Apex we have specially designed for loop only to iterate over a list. So if you want to iterate over a list, then you can use a for each loop. So to define a for each loop, very simple, you write for, okay, and then you give the what is the list you want to iterate over. Okay, which list you are referring for, so you give I list. Okay, so we are iterating over each values of the whole list. Okay, and then you have to give a variable also that will show one by one. So I will have to give integer I. Okay, and then I have to do system.debug. So here if I say I, okay. Okay, now let us try to execute this. So okay, let me just separate it a little bit. I'll add some comments also. So I'll say this is conventional for loop, and this will be my for each loop, for each, that's fine. Okay, now let me execute this. Okay, so now if you see both of them are doing the same thing, but my work is less. So here I don't have to define a new variable and then I have to check the size of the list and then iterate over 1 plus 1 like that. I don't have to do all that. So all I have to do is I have to write the name of the list. What is the list I want to iterate over? Okay, and then I have to just give one variable. So this variable, I variable, each time it will change the box itself. It will, I don't have to give like I list of I. Okay, I don't have to give the name of the list. So it's confusing. I list is confusing, so I'll remove this as okay, that's fine. So every time I don't have to write like I list of I don't have to write like this. So automatically this value of this variable, whatever value variable I'm giving here, so that variable will automatically change its position from 0 1 2 3 like that. It will change. Okay, so in this first case, in this case, let me give some spaces here.
But mostly we'll be using the second one, right?
Most cases we'll be using the second one only, because most of the times we'll be dealing with SQL queries, and SQL queries
Okay.
will always return a list. Okay, it will always return a list, so you always have to deal with the list. So most of the time we'll be using this for each loop. Okay,
Okay.
so in the first case, what is happening? Let us say we have a list. Okay, so we have a list of 5 boxes here. So here one variable is there, I. Okay, so value of I is 0 initially. Okay, so we have initialized I as 0, and then we are checking whether I is less than size of the list. So size of the list is 5. Okay, so that is becoming true. Now it is coming inside and it is debugging I list of this I. So inside the I list we are putting 0. Okay, here it is put as 0, so that will denote the first box. So much we had to do just to get the first box. Okay, and then we are displaying the value whatever is there. As of now it was 10, so it is displaying the value 10. But here you don't have to do all that. Here the I itself will denote the first box. You don't have to give the index like this. So the each variable that you define here, each variable will change its position. First the same variable will point here, then it 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 will point here. Okay, that is happening here also. Same thing is happening, but you have to do a lot of thing here which you don't have to do. So in a small code it doesn't make any difference, but when it's a longer code then it will create issues, or it will take a longer time for you to write everything. Okay, so to make it more convenient, for each loop is used. Okay, so that is one usage of this. Now another most wide usage is using the SQL queries. So I'll just give you a very basic example of SQL query, because we have not used SQL query as of now. We have not seen it. So there is something called query editor. In this query editor you can write SQL queries. So if I give something like, let's say, select name from account Okay, so this will display me the list of all the accounts which are there in my database. So if I execute this, it will give me the list of all the accounts and all the names are there. So if I do a SOQL query in my Apex code, okay, so if I do a SOQL query in my Apex code, that will return me a list. Okay, so that will always return me a list. Now if I want to iterate over each of the list and I want to get the values of those lists, then how do I do? For that I'll have to use for each loop. Okay, so this was an example for integer. Let us say if I have a list which is not of integer type, if it is of account type. Let me clear this off. Okay, so here we are dealing with integers, so lists were created for integers. Now if I want to deal with accounts, okay, so for accounts I'll have to create a list of accounts. So usually if I want to hold a collection of accounts, then I have to use list. So I'll use list account, let's say acc list. So this is just a variable that I'm naming, equals to new list of account. Okay, and then I have to call a constructor. So now my list of account is created. After that I want to do a SOQL query and I want to save all the values inside my list. So how do I do it? All I have to do acc list equals to, then I have to write a SOQL query. So I'll have to write select name from account. That's it. And I have to display it. Now if I want to display it, all I have to do is write a system.debug and then I have to write acc list. Okay, so if I execute this, now it will give me the whole list of accounts. Okay, so now this list is containing each account. See, if you see all the name, this ID, so account 1, account 2, account 3, like this, all the accounts are there. Okay, so all the accounts are coming in my list. So that is what the list will be most widely used for, to hold accounts or to hold any object. Now if I want to use each of the values, so if I want to fetch the IDs or if I want to fetch some other fields and I want to change it, I want to manipulate it. Okay, so for that I will have to write that query also. So let's say I want to get the description also. Okay, and if I want to change each of the description and add some messages in each of the description and update it, then how do I do? So for that I will have to need a for each loop. So that is when the for each loop will come into picture. So how do I create a for each loop? So first I have to give the name of the list that I want to iterate over. So I give acc list. So this is the list that I have to iterate over or I have to loop through. Okay, so I give the name of the list and then before that I have to give a variable that can hold each record. So what is the type, what is the data type of the list? That same data type we have to use. So here we have to use account acc or any variable account a. Now this a variable will loop through all the list, all the records one by one. So in the first instance, first iteration, the a will point to the first record. So a will point to lions and cats version 2. This record it will point to. In the second iteration, it will point to trigger sequence. In the third iteration, the same a will point to my demo account. Like that, it will keep on changing and it will go to the entire list. Here there's no limit, starting limit, ending limit. There's nothing like that. Here the starting is the first record, ending is the last record. Okay, and then what I have to do, then I have to grab each of the records description. So I have to say a dot description. So I got the description. Okay, now if I want to change that description, equals to, I'll write, let's say added from for loop. Okay, so after doing any kind of change, I'll also have to do a DML operation. These things, all things we'll see in detail. As of now, I'm just demonstrating. So I have to update the whole list. So I don't have to update all of them inside the for loop. That is not recommended because there is something called governor limit, that all things we'll see in future. So I will just do an update statement here. So I'll say update acc list. If you're not understanding these DMLs and all, don't worry, we'll see all these in detail. Okay, So as of now, I'm just demonstrating the purpose of for each loop. So after updating it, I just want to show the value. So I want to show system dot debug, and inside this I will put my ACC list. Okay. So now let me try to run it. If you guys are not understanding any of the lines, then let me know. Okay. Okay. So let us execute, and let's see what we get. Okay. So what is my code? So my code shows that I have a list of account and I got a query from the database. I got everything inside my ACC list. Then I'm iterating over each value of the ACC list. I'm changing the description to add it from the loop, and then I'm updating that list and I'm displaying it. Okay. So all the list is going to get, and the description is added. So added from the loop. So added from the for loop. All of them, the description will change to added for loop. So the same will happen in the database also. So if I go to my org, and if I go to what is the record, accounts. So S object is account. So any of the account, if I open, the description will be changed. Okay. So here, so if I see the description, so added from the for loop. Okay. So that is what is happening in the for loop. So this is what for each loop. Can't we enter update command with? Yes, we can definitely enter. We can definitely do it here. We can say update A. That we can do. But there is a problem here, that there is something called governor limit. Governor limit will check how many SOQL statements you have executed, how many queries you have done, how many update, how many insert. All those things will be checked. Okay, because the
Okay.
resource, yeah, because the resource that we are using, that is a shared resource. Everybody is using the same org. Okay, so that we cannot exceed the limit. We cannot use everything on our on for ourselves only. Others also get a resource. So that to prevent all that from happening, we have a limit. So all that limit is called SOQL query. Sorry, governor limits. So just imagine this ACC list will contain how many records? Maybe 30 records. Okay. So if it contains 30 records, then I update 30 times. If I write an update statement here, so the update is
Okay.
happening how many times? 30 times. Okay. But if I update outside the loop, update is happening how many times? Just one time. Okay. So definitely this
Okay.
is better, performance wise also, and also governor limit wise. Okay. So right
Okay.
now we are dealing with only 30 accounts, so this is fine, this is still doable, this it will not create any problem. But if in case most of the orgs will have like hundred of thousands of records, so now if I update 100,000 times, then all the resource will be exhausted by me only, so the server will slow down. So for that, there
Okay.
is a governor limit. So in order to do that, never put any DML operation ever inside the for loop. Okay. Even
Okay.
if for one record, don't put any DML operation, insert, update, delete. Don't put anything ever inside the for loop. Okay. So this
Sure.
is not recommended. This is not acceptable. Okay. So this is what for each loop will do. So this is how you use the for each loop. Now the third type of loop is for each loop, specially designed for SOQL queries. So that is called inline for loop also. That is also called as inline query for loop. So here what we have done is we have created a single list, then we have added values to that list, then we have put that list inside my query, inside the for loop. So I can actually skip these two steps and I can embed this thing directly inside my for loop. That is what the for each loop for SOQL query is. So I am skipping these two lines, I am not using these two lines. So how do I use it? So so this is an example for each loop. Okay, and this is an example for loop, and that's fine, so we'll remove this. So this is our for each loop, and then we have something called for each loop for SOQL queries. So this is specially designed for SOQL queries. So how you use it? So for that you have to create a for. So create a for, then you give a variable just like this account A. We have to give a variable that is capable of holding one record, and it should be iterating over the record. So we have to give, let's try opportunity this time. So if I say opportunity, let's say O, okay, and then I've gave a colon, and then I write the SOQL query directly here. Okay, I don't need to create a list of opportunities, and I don't need to add values to the list, and then I used to use the list. I don't have to do all that. I can write the query directly inside. So I can write select name, stage name, comma, let's say close date. All the fields that I can add it. Close date from opportunity. That's it. Okay, so my loop is done. I don't need to create any list and add the value and then query and add the value. I don't have to do all that. So inside this, I just need to, if I want to display the list or maybe update the description. Okay, if I want to update the description, so I have to fetch the description also. Description. Okay, and if I want to add values to the description, so all I have to do o dot description equals to, I can say maybe op description added from SOQL for loop. Okay, I have done that, and then I have to update it. So I can update here also. I can say update O, but that is not acceptable. So we have to update in the end. Okay, but that is the problem with our for each loop with the SOQL query, because here we don't have the whole list. So I cannot say that I have to update any list. Okay, so in this case I have to do it inside the for itself. Okay, but it is used for some other purpose. As of now we will just try to use it as, let's say I want to do a system.debug. Okay, so here I can debug O. Okay, so now if I just execute this part, so now all of the records are coming one by one. Okay. So here you just imagine how many lines we skipped. We did not have to create any list here, and we did not have to do the queries separately and add the values. So here just we had to we can add directly it inside the for loop itself. Okay, so that is another way of using the for loop. Okay. So these are the three basic types of for loop that we'll be using throughout our program. Very frequently, the most frequently we'll be using this type of for loop only. Okay, very less frequently we'll be using this type of for loop. Okay, if in case if we want each of the index values also, if we want to use it like this, then we have to use this for loop, or else we can use this for loop also. Okay, any doubts, any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, all right, so what you can do,
And one more thing,
yes,
for each loop for SQL queries, we won't be able to update or insert or do anything, right?
here that we can't do. So let us say if I have to get the list, okay, and from this list if I want to create a separate set, okay, I have to add only the set descriptions if I want to get the description values and put it inside a set, if I have to do something like that. So in that case I'll have to add it one by one here. So if in those cases we'll be using this, okay, but the update and all that you cannot add directly here. You can, definitely you can, but in long run it will throw you a problem, it will create exceptions. Okay, so
Like
in
how
our
we did for update
so,
list
sorry,
outside the method, we were doing it for the previous one, right? Similarly, we won't be able to do it
Because we don't have any variable or any list to update, right? So we can't update here O, because O doesn't exist anywhere outside the for loop. O is a local variable, only exists inside the loop.
Okay.
Okay. So in future we'll see examples when we will be using this or when we'll be using this one. Okay. So apart from this, you have any queries?
No, sir.
Okay. Mastan, you have any queries? Okay. Okay, then I'll create a shared folder and I'll share the videos there also. Okay, so that you can go through once again. Okay, so unless we have anything else to add, we can done for the day. So we'll again connect tomorrow, not tomorrow. Tomorrow is Saturday, right? So we'll connect again on Monday. Okay. So
Okay.
Monday, same time, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay then. Bye bye.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Sudha.
Hey, Sabah.
Hey. Yesterday you were saying, na, you had some question. What was it?
Ah, see, I will give you the credentials. One of my friend he is having some doubt. Okay,
Oh.
what happened na? On the lightning page, if I click on one tab, okay,
Huh.
inside that tab, one PDF page is there. Okay, in that
Okay.
PDF page, export Excel button, one button is there. Okay,
Okay.
if I click on that particular button,
Huh.
automatically download that particular file into CSV file. Okay.
Huh.
That is not happening in Lightning. No, but that is working fine in Classic, but that is not happening in Lightning.
Oh, is that a JavaScript button?
No, in the Visual Code space, they are using
Oh.
this button. Yeah.
In the Visual Force page, if the button is there, then
Whenever a user click on that particular button,
hmm.
that file should be downloaded, right? In the Classic. In that time, we are also doing something. We did something like in the discussion note thing. We did something like if you click on that download symbol, automatically that file is chosen. Something we did right same way, but it's not happening. Getting error like the server has been something like that.
Oh, okay.
What is the service? I will just ping in. I will tell you the credentials from my friend.
Share me the credentials, na, we'll check.
Okay, okay. I will send you now.
Okay, share me the credentials. It's his own org or is it his company's org?
Not companies are only, but they are doing all this development activities in their own org only.
Okay,
They
okay,
work
that's
only,
okay.
not a sandbox. They
Not
work only.
sandbox, na?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, then share me the credentials. Okay, and then we'll see.
Okay.
Okay, and how's everything going? Bachelor life.
Yeah. Good. Today is coming. Yeah. Today.